Welcome back to Real Conversations with Nora for our 47th episode. And our topic of discussion this week is how important it is for us as Black people to support each other. And joining me today is Alisa Alexander. Alisa is a highly qualified motivational speaker, recording artist, master facilitator, and learning professional who holds degrees from Baylor University and Texas Women's University. Because enriching the lives of others is her passion, she considers it a privilege to have built a career and, more importantly, a life helping others. Alisa is elated to have shared 15 of those years enriching the lives of women at the world's largest direct selling company, primarily for women. She's taught in civics and religious settings, schools, and colleges at Texas Women's University. Alisa, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure. I'm so excited.
So can you share with us your thoughts on the importance of us as a people supporting Black businesses?
Oh, wow. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I think it's so important that we support Black businesses. This is such a great conversation for us to be having. And it's certainly a great conversation for us to be having right now. Entrepreneurship is so important. And we as African Americans, we have a huge buying power, lots of spending power.
Mm-hmm.
And just really important that we support those Black businesses. And let me tell you what I think people don't think about, Nora. I think people don't remember that when you're supporting a Black business, you're sending a kid to college. You're supporting a family, helping to create generational wealth instead of generational debt. You know, sometimes when we pass on, unfortunately, we're also passing on debt. How reversing that trend, and let's pass on some generational wealth. So that kind of support, entrepreneurship, I think it's so important, and particularly important for us to remember, because in terms of entrepreneurship and our buying power, we've been locked out of higher power jobs. So some have been locked out of particular industries and institutions. Or once we've gotten in place, we felt a huge glass ceiling over our head. So our buying power, entrepreneurship, supporting Black businesses, it helps us to reverse that curse over our community. And so it's so important that we really, really, really make sure that as we're spending, we're spending. So as we're spending, that we sure that Black businesses are included in that list of vendors, in that list of companies that we're with. So important to turn that dollar over.
Absolutely. I read something the other day that said, I'm always Googling. I love Google because you can find information. It says supporting Black businesses builds relationship and boosts community morale. There are currently 2.6 million Black-owned businesses in America, where 8 out of 10 fail within the first 18 months due to the lack of resource and funds. According to the State of Working American, Black people spend, oh my God, and I know this, we have buyer power, you just talked about, 4% more money annually than any, not just one particular race, any race. And although they are the least represented race and the race that lives in poverty at the highest rate, the article believes that it builds community and is so key for us to do that. So what's your thought on that statement?
Oh my goodness, I can't wait to jump into this one. It's just where we are, friend. Nora, we do spend. Now that may be another show for another day, right? But you know what I'm saying? But whatever resources we have, and however we or wherever we are socioeconomically, we tend to spend. So let me just go back to that first question again for a moment. When we're spending with ourselves, we are supporting our own community.
Yes.
You can't say that enough. And let me say this. I think that there are people in 2020, 2021 who have been discouraged by some of the things that we've seen over the last 4 years, the last 3 years, the last 2 years, the last year. You know what? Where we spend our dollar can be a radical act. About the 50s and you think about the 60s and the radical acts that were done by civil rights leaders. When you spend your dollar, that too is a radical act. You spend your dollar with someone that looks like you, again, I can't say it enough. You are supporting that family and instead of passing on, generational debt, we can pass on generational wealth. But now let's talk about the spending a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm a sociologist. I have a master's degree in sociology. I have a minor in family studies. So I have a lot of thoughts as it relates to spending and what we're doing with our spending. But when we think about that spending, and again, there's a lot to be said about this. One of the things that I found out, and I love that you love Google just like me. I like to tell people Google is free. Okay. Google is free. We can live in the dark. We can come out of the shadows and we can live in the light, right?
Mm-hmm.
The things that I found out is that of all the communities, are more likely, 31% more likely, in fact, to have a designer purse that's over $500. So we love, again, lots to be said about that, but we love the brands, right? We love the brands. We love to spend. I think there is a connection between our spending and our sense of self-worth. But the show is about the spending. If we're going to do the spending, and clearly we are, bear it out over and over again, why not spend with someone that you're giving freedom to? I like to think that our financial decisions, that's a fight for freedom. Financial choices, it's a fight for freedom. Again, you may not think about it that way, but in a lot of ways, where we put that money is a radical act. And so, no, you're not Rosa Parks. No, you're not Martin Luther King. No, you're not Denmark Vesey, right? No, you're not those people. Right. But what you can do is you can use that dollar to give freedom to someone's family, to send somebody to college, to make a difference in somebody's life, as opposed to living a life where all the other decisions are, all the upwardly mobile decisions are being made for you. You make those upwardly mobile decisions for yourself. And that's not your path. How about opening the door that someone else is able to do it? You're sitting there saying, you know what? The corporate life is my life, right? Or a different kind of life is my life. An educational life is my life. That's okay. That's okay. How about using that dollar to open the door for someone else? But Nora, there's something else we need to talk about, and that's the gig economy. Right. A lot of times when people hear us talk about entrepreneurship, they think that they have to make a decision. It's either this or this. Right. One lane or another lane. There's no such thing. No. All the lanes have been blurred now. Right. The lanes are blurred now. And so you can have a 9 to 5 and have a 5 to 9. You can have an 8 to 5 and then have a 5 to 10. Right. I really like to encourage people to think about entrepreneurship, think about your spending dollar, think about your financial freedom in different ways. Right. More creative ways, because just a little hustle, maybe because that's another reference people are using. Right. The hustle economy. The hustle economy might help you to take that vacation. I just got a call from a girlfriend literally right before our interview asking me to come out to an amazing resort. I have a 13-year-old, bring my 13-year-old. Well, you know what? The reality of our world often is that 8 to 5 is not going to cut it for the extras. Right. It's going to be the 5 to 9. So you're thinking about financial freedom for yourself. Right. You're thinking about financial freedom for another family. If you choose in a different kind of life, I really want us to rethink that buying power. And again, Google is free, so you can look this up and validate what I'm saying. Absolutely. Spending power is tremendous. Yes, tremendous. Right. And the other part of that is also is that, what we'll do is we'll do the 9 to 5 and then we'll leave, 9 to 5, and then we'll go 6 to 10 to work for somebody else. And you still have not conquered, because it's going from one place to another. And entrepreneurship is, I believe, is a key. It's not for everybody. We know that. But I think when people say that, let me just backtrack. When people say it's not for everybody, it's the thinking of the person that makes them think it's not for them. Right. Which is why I really want to encourage a hustle. Right. I think everybody needs a hustle, even if it's not what you do, your main income. Right. And here's the other part of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship also, in addition to offering financial freedom, it offers creative freedom. Yes. Creative freedom. It offers a sense of independence that most people don't have on their 8 to 5 or their 9 to 5. Absolutely. So an 8 to 5 or a 9 to 5, very often you are given an agenda and it is your job to carry it out. Right. Work fast food or not. Anybody who's lived the corporate life can identify with me when you say that, when I say there are times that you're like, do you want fries with that? You want crinkle fries with that? I don't even work in fast food, right? But there have been times in my corporate life.
Right.
I mean, this is over the course of a long career where
Right.
really you're taking orders. You're doing it on a high level, but
Right.
you're taking orders and you're completing orders and you're doing it in excellence. And there is a beauty in that.
Right.
There's no such thing in this context is dishonest work. But
Right.
what about your independence? What
Yeah.
about your independence? Is
Yeah.
there a message that you have to share with the world?
Right.
A recipe that you have to share with the world?
What?
Is there a product maybe that you make on the weekend? I love looking at social media and I get so excited about these ladies that I see because I'm just interested in it, watching them make candles, right? Make lotions,
Right.
body oils. What
Right.
are you passionate about?
Right.
Is there a way, or maybe it's a gift that you have?
Yeah.
One of the reasons I'm a little raspy today is because I sing. So maybe it's a gift that you have. Should you be writing your own song? Should you be in the studio behind another artist? Is there a way for you to exercise not just financial independence, but some creative
Independence. Yeah.
over your life? And I think when we are living our lives full out like that, I think we're happier. I think we're just living at a different level. Maybe it can even be argued that we live longer or whatever our days are. We're maximizing those days because those days are coming from a deep place, not order that somebody sent in, like fries or French fries, right? Sweet potato fries, no sauce with that. Forget the salt, right? It's not that.
Right.
But it's that creative idea that's on the inside of you that is wanting to come out. And so again, my thing, Nora, is that whether you're doing it as this is the only lane you're in, or whether you're doing it as a hustle or doing it as a gig, I have seen kids, Nora. I've seen Black kids doing amazing things.
Yeah.
African children. I know a child who has a tea. And she has 3 different varieties of the tea that I'm aware of. And I go one of these high-end grocery stores in town, and I see her teas on the shelf. Right? Another child, and I featured her. I do a conference once a year, and I featured her in my conference. This kid does bows, Gabby's bows. If Gabby is 16, that is all she is. She started this when she was in single digits. A little kid making bows who saw creativity within herself and the help of her mom turned that into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And so that's my challenge for our audience. There's some financial freedom here. We need to talk about that, but don't about the creative freedom as well.
Right. Absolutely. And the word of God says, the Bible says, he gives us the ability to produce wealth. He didn't give it to us to produce it for us. He said, I gave you the ability to produce wealth. And he said, your gifts will make room for you and put you before great people. But I said, it's like a season. When your season comes, and if you're not in line and position, the season's going to go right past. Because isn't that what seasons do? They go from season to season to season. That's why we have to be so lined up. So I love it. Absolutely love it. Then
so important.
It is so key. It says when Black-owned businesses are in high demand, the companies are more profitable. Showing your support helps creating entrepreneurship opportunities. So we talked a little bit about that. It's your own business, and so it's how important it is to have something that belongs to you. One thing, when something belongs to you, no one could ever take it away.
That's it. And here's the other thing that I want to get in here. I think it also leaves a legacy for your family.
Yes.
My dad is an entrepreneur. He's the first millionaire in our family. And so when I look at my dad and I look at the freedom that he has in his choices, it inspires me, and it's inspired everyone in our family. My mom and I are entrepreneurs as authors, right? We wrote a book together, a devotional that will live on our years, right? I love the fact that entrepreneurship, that this sense of freedom, financial freedom, creative freedom, that it lives as a legacy. It's something that lives beyond you, and it inspires others. That has inspired our entire family. My mom and I, we have this piece of work, this devotional, that my daughter will be able to enjoy, that my daughter may be able to share with her family as well. So that's something else I think we need to think about. What does it say to our families, right? Inspiration. When we decide to take, because I know what it is. Friends, I know what it is. It's fear. Sometimes we have a very clear picture of what it is that God wants us to do. right? To live a bigger life, to think a bigger thought, to see ourselves bigger. But often what happens is fear gets in the way.
Yeah.
Thing is that if we're going to spend all this time watching television, right? People who can tell you every single plot point of every single reality show. Are you kidding?
Not
Right?
a reality show.
I'm just saying. Listen, I know what's going on, and it's fun to have fun. And I do think we should relax. But it is when I am focused and when I'm intentional and when I'm spending my gifts doing those things that God has put in my heart and in my mind. Oh my, it's almost like explosions, like fireworks are going off in my head and in my spirit. When I'm on a stage holding a microphone, singing, I'm a praise and worship leader, singing as unto the Lord, encouraging others to worship and to really that is the best of me. That is the very best of me. That's the teaspoon that I want to share with your audience today, that there's still a best of you. I have a feeling that somewhere in there is a hustle, is a gig, is a something to share with the world. So I hope they're getting fired up. No, I hope
I know I am. Did you watch the let's talk about the Black Wall Street and the movie, which was a true story, and also the movie that The Banker. Did you see that movie, The Banker?
In all honesty, I haven't seen all of The Banker. I need to finish it.
Oh my goodness, it is so awesome. Here we are, and the stories are very, very similar because the people in Oklahoma, they, back then in those days, white people did not want to do business with us. They did not want to give us money to buy houses. They did not want to give us money to start businesses. They didn't want to really give us anything. So what they did was came together. They came together and started their own community. Weren't bothering anything. But happened, this goes to show you, come on, God. This goes to show you the buying power. They had so much buying power. The buying power moved from one race to another race, just what you talked about. It moved to our race. And because of their jealousy and hatred, which we know is nothing but the enemy, jealousy and hatred, they destroyed them. Same thing with the banker. All he wanted to do when he was a little boy was sit outside that window and hear those deals close and take all kinds of notes. And when he grew up, he wanted to own real estate. He wanted to put together a business plan to fight housing integration and to have equal access to the American dream. That's all they wanted. They didn't want anything else. And so, what happened was in that story, and if you have not watched The Banker, guys, you got to watch it. He met an Irishman. We know that in this country, too, they were, not like us, but they were prejudiced against Irishmen. And this man believed in him. And he said, let's make some money together. And they made money together. But because of the hatred, they actually opened banks. But they had to use a white man to represent them because they were not able to buy. They were not able, and they bought one of the largest buildings in LA. And this young white boy who just loved people, he just happened to be one of those people who loved people. And his best friend was Black, who was the uncle of his best friend. And so they got together and they used him, and it worked. Of course, people got jealous, and we know the history and the story. So let's talk about how Black people had to work around the system. That's all it was, a system, to get what I believe was rightfully theirs. And I will share, again, about the movie. It was just great. Then we can elaborate on it to get, we can come together and elaborate on our buying power and importance of I thinking about my grandparents and probably your great grandparents, what they had to do just to sing, just to be in an audience. Because the racial tension was so horrible. But here, gifted, naturally gifted, knew how to pull a plan together, were brilliant people. And so let's talk about that, because it is what it was then. And let's face it, it's still like that today in some areas.
It absolutely is. And I think that's the part of our history that I think our history is freeing. I think it is empowering, because you see this legacy of brilliance and excellence. So studying our history, it inspires you, it empowers you, because you know that that's what you come from, right? You know that that's who you are. I mentioned Denmark Vesey early on. He was one of the slave insurrectionists. And with all of the crazy that's going on with what can you teach and what can't you teach, it bothers me so that so many students will never know his name.
Right.
I think it's important. In fact, let me stop there and just park for a moment and say that at the end of the day, we have always had to do for ourselves.
Right.
At the end of the day, we've always had to be the one to help us. It was no one coming. And let me give you a newsflash. I don't care who's in the presidency. You can't relax, right?
Right.
You may think that you have a president and things are different and whatnot. No, at the end of the day, we always have to do for us. We always have to prepare for us. We always have to think about our future. And yes, we need to vote. And yes, we need to be active in
Right.
the process. But at no point should that give us a
Mhm.
a sense of calm.
Mhm.
The war is over. The war is not over. The battle is not over. Not done until we're all out, and we know that we're not.
Right.
Our rates of poverty, our education, the rates as it relates to education,
Right.
all those numbers need to be going in another direction.
Absolutely.
So who's going to help that? Who's going to fix that? We're the ones that are going to have to do that. My dad, as I mentioned, just amazing, just an amazing man. So when I think Black history, the first thing that comes to mind for me is just my family.
Mhm.
My father and my mother both graduated valedictorians of their class.
Mm.
About my mom, there are pictures of my mom in her early grades in group pictures, and she didn't have any shoes on.
Mm.
I didn't have any shoes on, and went from that to being a college professor of English
Mm.
for 40 years at a university. My dad couldn't finish an entire school year because he was a migrant farm worker working up and down the highway in Texas.
Mhm.
Picking, my dad today has cotton on his dashboard in his truck because it's a reminder of where he came from. My
Wow.
father picked produce, my father picked cotton, the whole nine, and could not finish a school year because that's what he had to do. He would,
Wow.
and then he would come back and he would make up his schoolwork. And he too graduated valedictorian. You can look at that snapshot in the 60s, and then you can look further back. Think about the Montgomery bus cop that happened in 1955 and 1956. It was the largest bus cop of its kind. You want to tell me that Black buying power doesn't have power?
Right.
Buying power to
Got power.
the segregated buses in
Right.
in in Hatfield, Montgomery, Alabama in the 50s.
Mhm.
Black people understood the power in their buying power. And
Mhm.
is our history a tumultuous one? It absolutely is. We can tell stories of great forward progress, and we can also tell stories of great defeat. But we know, as it relates to what happened in Tulsa,
Mhm.
happened in that story of the banker, is that we bounce
Right.
back again and again and again. And so today, when you look at our middle class, when you look at the possibility that's ahead of each of us, we
Mhm.
are growing by leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
Honestly, today, it's hard to get through a week without hearing about Simone Biles. Right. Recently, she made the headlines for her excellence. You'll go another week and you'll hear something about Kamala Harris. Making a trip overseas, her first trip, and making such a statement to the Guatemalan people. Every time you turn around, it's hard to find a week that you don't hear about our excellence. But if
Right.
we don't tell our stories and we don't remember who we are, I am convinced that if you're in the dark, you make dark choices. You
Right.
come out of the darkness and into the light. We have to increase
Like.
the enlightenment of our
Mhm.
people so that we understand. I believe it was Marcus Garvey who said in a poem, "Up, you mighty race."
Right.
You mighty race.
Mm.
What he was saying is that you are filled with power. You are filled with potential. And today our focus is that financial power.
Right.
I believe, what is the scripture? Money answereth all things.
Yeah.
Right? Look it up. It's in the scripture.
Yeah.
Answereth all things. And sometimes people will say, money is the root of all evil. No, it's not. The scripture says the love of money is
Mhm.
the root of all evil. So we have a place, right? We
Mhm.
have an inheritance. We have a place in this country. I have no intention of going anywhere else. I have uncles who died at Pearl Harbor. My sister is she's an officer in the Navy. My brother just retired as an officer in the Army. My husband spent 25 years plus in the United States Marine Corps. My father was retired as a officer in the Army as well. The list goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
I share that to say this land is made for you and me.
Yeah.
We have to make the kind of financial choice that put us in the position of having financial freedom.
Yeah. And the word of God says, it says, money maketh us rich and addeth no sorrow. It doesn't say it adds sorrow. It says it maketh us rich and addeth no sorrow. He even said the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous. So that
come on. And that he would give us houses that we didn't build.
Right.
For us.
Yes.
For us. But we have to make the right choices.
Yes.
Right choices. And we have to be enlightened. And also we have to be inspired. So it's my hope that something I said in this conversation will just that. Right. We have to be inspired. We have to see the possibility. I love Google and I love to read. I love to watch empowering stuff on TV. Because wherever we are, and I want to say this too, Nora, wherever we are, maybe we're talking today to someone who's already on this path.
Right.
For you, I want to say that if you're watching me right now, I want to say to you that there are no plateaus.
None.
Wherever you are, there's always a higher level. Right? There's always a higher level. Jeff Bezos, one of the richest men in the world during peak pandemic, became a trillionaire. Okay. There's always another level.
Yeah.
There's always another level.
Absolutely. Then on Google, this is what they said on Google: closing the racial wealth gap. The persistent racial wealth gap in the United States is a burden on Black Americans, as well as the overall economic. It can be traced back to the Jim Crow era, and that prevented Black people from accessing higher paying jobs and home ownership and opportunities. We just talked about it. According to the Federal Reserve Bank in Cleveland in 2016, the average wealth of the household with a head identifying as Black was $140,000, while the white head of household, listen to this number, was $901,000, nearly 6.5 times greater. Support of Black businesses can increase the flow of wealth to Black families and Black communities. This helps close the racial wealth gap over time. This is what we have to do. We have to go back to thinking different. We have to go back and support. Now, listen, we're not saying, I always tell people they can't fix what they don't know. So if I hire you as a Black contractor and you don't do the right thing, my job is to tell you what you did wrong, to help you, figure it out, and hopefully you'll do it right. Now, if you keep doing it wrong, I can't. I'm not saying go do business with bad Black people or bad white people, whoever. You want to do business with people who are doing business. And that's what we have to learn is, how do I do business? Because if you're the creative juice, hire a secretary to do to hold your appointments, or schedule appointments, or what have you. But always figuring out that the most important thing is that we support each other. The most important thing is that we take care of each other. And that's what they did. That's what I feel like they did. Our grandparents and great-grandparents did. They took care of it. When my grandparents died, my great-great-grandparents, they left all this land in Florida. And each generation that passed, it went to the next generation. So now I have all this land in Florida. Now I'm trying to live down near the swamps, but anyway, it's mine. The bottom line, it's mine.
That it's yours.
It belongs to me. And they set it up so that their request was that we don't sell it to anybody other than somebody in the family.
Right.
That's how we stick together.
That's it. That's how we close the gap. That's find financial freedom. That's how we do it. It's by thinking about our families. I mean, can you imagine this? I was thinking about this interview, Nora. I thought about, instead of every child in our family, having to struggle to get to college, having to struggle. I remember kids who did not have to take out loans to get through college. I remember kids who their parents bought them not a car, which is a resource that depreciates immediately.
Right.
Exactly. But bought them a home. Right. Bought a plot of land, that their graduation present, right, was a plot of land. Their graduation present was a home. I actually knew kids going through college who, instead of sending all that money to an apartment complex, let me just buy you a house. Let me just buy you a little duplex so that you have something that would appreciate in value. And then when you graduate, we'll sell the house, and whatever those proceeds are, those are yours. The profit from the home, that's yours to start your life with. Can you imagine how different our life experiences
Right.
if we weren't looking for life insurance policy? Well,
Right.
right? We weren't looking for lawsuits to make well. Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
The big payday in our family comes from the wrong there are other ways for us to gain wealth, for us to gain wealth. And entrepreneurship is certainly a path to that.
Right.
Else I wanted to say too, I think entrepreneurship is such a great idea because, and let me dial that back just for a second. I did some research on entrepreneurship just a couple of years ago. And one of the things that I found with entrepreneurs is that entrepreneurs today are younger than they've ever been.
Yeah.
And watching this and you're like in your 40s up and you think I'm only talking to you, I'm not. I'm also talking to you if you're in your teens. I'm you two little young girls in our community who are killing it, killing the entrepreneur game, who've been written up in all kinds of financial. You don't have to be, because that was the old teaching. So let's talk about that for a second, Nora. The old teaching was you needed to grad. Since we're talking about graduating from college, you were supposed to graduate from college and get a good job.
Right.
Good job. And that's what they told us to do. Get a good job. And a good job meant a job with some benefits. Right. You need a job with some benefits. And then you were supposed to hold on to your good job, right, no matter what, until you got to a certain point. And then maybe, right, then maybe you were to kind of put your foot out there in entrepreneurship, maybe in your 50s or your 60s, late 40s at the earliest.
Right.
Not the advice we're giving today. That is not the reality of what we're seeing.
Right.
If you look at entrepreneurs today, Nora, they are younger than they've ever been.
Oh my goodness, it's
younger. And not only that, if you look at a profile of entrepreneurs, they are more female than they've ever been.
Yeah.
If you look at entrepreneurs, there are more women of color.
Right.
And the largest group of entrepreneurs are African American women.
Right.
So what am I saying? I'm saying to our audience, well, if you're young, if you're female, whatever age or you happen to be in, there is a playing field for you in entrepreneurship. There's absolutely a playing field.
Yeah. And it went on to say it empowers Black community. There's a common saying, it takes a village to raise a child. The power of the communities have paved the way for many business owners. When you choose to support Black businesses, you are supporting Black pride, unity, and self-determination. And while that may be intimidating to some, it would mean the world to many families and communities. It says Black entrepreneurship is a tool for survival in a world that does not want to see you win. When we choose to win against all odds, young Black children grow up seeing successful entrepreneurs in a thriving community that is doing something to change the world, Let's just talk about that just for a brief minute. I know our time is limited, but that I couldn't let that go. I was going to let that one go. I said, I can't let it go.
Well, it's such a beautiful statement. I really love that you took the time to mention that, because it just reminds me, when I hear you talk like that, Nora, what it reminds me of is the importance of passing it on.
Yes.
I think about myself, but honestly, today I think more and more about what am I showing my daughter?
Right.
Face my fears, and I do it anyway. When I take that idea that's been at the back of my head and I bring it to the forefront and I get out there and I put myself out there, it's so funny. I was in a social situation recently and I was just fatigued because I had been going through a couple of things, just working hard and making things happen. And you know how it is in the pandemic.
Right.
Hour you're the butcher, next hour you're the baker, the next hour you're the candlestick maker. At the end of doing all of that, and of course one day I had a social situation that I had to get into and I just didn't think I had the energy for it. I was talking to my daughter and my daughter tells me, 13, tells me, get out there, Mom, you can do it. Find the energy. Mom, you know what's inside you. You know what I heard? I heard myself talking back to myself. But my daughter has listened to me coach others.
Yeah.
Listen to me, encourage others. What does this have to do with finances?
Right.
What I'm telling you is that when we live a financially free life, not only are we depositing into our own lives, but we're depositing into the future. So, Nora, when you talked about inspiring others and particularly just inspiring our youth, who want to leave this community too.
Right.
2020 not proven to us that times are as crazy as they have ever been.
Yes.
Every week, another headline shocked us, made us
Right.
silent, made us wonder what is the entire world coming to.
Right.
The civil rights, as it relates to voting.
Right.
Things are absolutely nuts. But guess what? If we continue, I am convinced that he who shall come will come and will not tarry. And if our youth pick up that mantle, that they'll meet us at the finish line.
Well, Lisa, thank you for joining us today. I want to thank you for being my guest on Real Conversations with Nora. Are there any last minute comments that you'd like to share with the audience before us closing today?
Oh, I just like to say thank you so much for watching us today. I don't know if there's a more important conversation than one about our future. And really today was a seed into your future. So if there is one last thing I'd have to say, it just be to encourage you to light that flame that's already burning inside yourself and make it brighter. Right, to light that flame that's already inside yourself, that's telling you, that's pushing you. I have a feeling that while you listen to this conversation, that something went off in your head, that you were reminded of the better you. I am convinced that when we're in the shower or when we're just waking up or when we're doing our power walks, that we get an image of ourselves. We get a creative idea. My question now to you is, what are you going to do with it? I want to encourage you to pick that idea up and take a step. And it can be a baby step and it can be a shaky step. And you feel afraid when you take the step. But the great news is that as you take those steps, your confidence will grow, right? As you take those steps, you'll feel more empowered and out of the shadows and into the light. Now, while you're in the light, if you want to find more from me, feel free to check me out. I'm everywhere. I have social media. I love social media because I love people. So check out all my social media profiles. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I have 2 pages. I'm on Instagram. And I also have a website, alisainspires.com. So that's that. Thank you guys so much. And Nora, you are amazing. I have admired you for years. I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for this. We all need this. We need these conversations. So
thank you so much. Well, once again, I want to thank you for your insight on today's topic. And thank you for, if you'll share one more time, your website and how they can follow you on social media, that would be great.
Sure. Absolutely. You can find me on alisainspires.com. So that's my first name, Alisa, just the word inspires.com. I also mentioned my book that I wrote with my mom. We have a devotional that's out there. You can find that on Amazon. The name of the devotional is My Unchanging Shepherd. And can we just be honest? The world is changing a lot. So it's good to know that the shepherd does not change. And then in terms of my social media, I'm on Facebook. I have Alisa Alexander and then Alisa Alexander 2. I have 2 Facebook pages. I'm out on Instagram as AJ Star Alex, Twitter, AJ Star Alex, and I'm also on LinkedIn. Heck, these days I'm on TikTok and Pinterest. Whatever social media platform is your tribe. I'd love if you would hang out with me. I love inspiring people and love talking to inspiring people. So let's continue the conversation.
Yes. And to my Real Conversations with Nora audience, please follow us on social media on Instagram at BWOTMFG and on Facebook at Business Women on the Move for God. Visit my website at BWOTMFG.com and sign up for our new programs. And make sure you stop by our retail store where you can find lots of great items, not only for yourself, but your family and friends. And also ask your friends to watch the show each week and share with others. I look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Real Conversations with Nora. We want you to have a blessed and prosperous week. God bless you. Thank you so much.